Hello, this is my Mendel Palace submission for Columbus Glitch Bus. This is a really cool game by Game Freak. They're who are well known for making the Pokemon series. It has really good music and just very charming overall. However, unfortunately, we won't get to see a lot of the cool things about it in the run, but I could possibly show those off afterwards. Anyway, timing starts upon hitting start on the 1 or 2 player screen. So here we go. Now, this game is really neat. There's tons of enemy variety in all of these different palaces. And of all the enemies, most of them have different variants with different AI behaviors. So there's 10 different enemies and various different things they'll end up doing. And you have to be mindful of all of them in order to defeat them well. Now you might notice the way that we defeat enemies is by slamming them into walls, which is pretty unique. Every panel on the floor is flippable, and some of them have things underneath them that do different things. The ones I've been touching recently have been these sun panels that flip every other panel in the room, which is very useful. It'll be used a lot in the run to clear out many rooms. And I mean many, many rooms. Now, these little panels I'm touching with the stars on them, stars are very good, because every 100 stars gives you an extra life, but that's not really what they're useful for. Every 100 stars also gives you a speed boost, which is really good. I missed one. It's fine. Now, let's see. The other panels, I'll talk about them more when we use them. But yeah, these enemies are very basic. All they do is walk around. In fact, if you let them walk up to you, which they'll do, they'll just turn by the time they get to you. They won't even touch you. You can only die if you walk into them, and I have done that a few times before. Anyway, this girl right here is Jenny. She's your girlfriend. At least in the Japanese story. She's some random princess who gets trapped in her dreams in the US version, but the US version has a lot of weird differences. But it is what I'm playing on, though. Anyway, these guys... these guys are jumpers, and what they do, well, they jump a ton. Unfortunately, I didn't get the good clear on this room. I have a setup where, depending on my base speed, I can instantly clear them all with the jumping patterns they use. Sort of like that, so hopefully I'll be able to get it in a future run. But yeah, these guys are pretty unique too. Them jumping around makes it like super tricky to hit them all, as you've seen, but they have a really good theme. These moon panels, they make the entire room black and fill up all of the panels without anything with stars, so you can get more of those. But that's mostly good in casual play. These panels right here, they're like shockwaves. They basically uncover whatever direction you're facing. That was a panel that gives me more time on the timer. When you've been on a level for too long, the time runs out, basically, and all that does is it makes the enemies much more aggressive and harder to deal with. But it rarely ever happens in a run. This guy right here is kind of like our little boss, but he's not very intimidating. At least not this variant of him. He will appear a few more times. But yeah, so far 2 palaces down, really good. They're not really parts of the run that that I would normally struggle on. Also, something I never mentioned, only 2 other people have really ran this game, and they have a different palace order. But the palace order doesn't really matter, but it's important to me, and I guess if you were to learn it, it'd be important to you as well, depending on which you go to in order, due to the speed you get from stars, as I mentioned before. I really like going this way because in the second palace, I don't want to have any speed upon entering it, but I need it afterwards, and in this palace, the speed I have currently is really good. So, that's just how I do it. The rest of them, it doesn't really matter how fast I go. But anyway, this is the Artist Palace. You don't really get to see much of what the artists really do, but they'll stop around on panels and draw. And they'll draw all sorts of things. It doesn't usually matter that they draw, but when they do draw, you cannot use a panel that they have drawn on. And sometimes some of their drawings will come to life. There's a lot more I wish I could show about them, but I don't really have time to do that. But this room and the next room are the hardest in the palace, and where the run really starts to get troublesome. However, I've recently found some good ways to handle this room, and the next room I can usually handle well, but it can go either way, honestly. Now, this is the first of the boss rooms where it's just the enemy from the palace that you've been fighting, but they all come to life. Now, this has gone good. I got a really good pattern out of that. Enemy patterns aren't random at all. They seem random until you realize that they're directly tied to your movement and behavior. So essentially, wherever you stand and all that directly influences how the AI is. So it's very important to consistently do the same things in order to get the best patterns every time. At least for most rooms and parts of the game. Some of them you can do pretty much whatever, though. It's not as big a deal. Now these guys, they're acrobats. They will jump really high, but they're not really like jumpers. Like, jumping isn't exactly their movement. Some of them will jump when you try to flip them, and some of them will jump when you get too close to them. But they're not really hard to deal with, outside of the last 2 stages. But even then, I've gotten down some good, consistent ways of dealing with that. Now, these are some panels I haven't really shown off. These ones will flip you around, and it's one of the other ways you can kill enemies, by, like, slamming into them. In fact, it gets used a lot in this room, but I've recently changed up the way I do this. Now, these panels with the waves on them, those are respawn tiles. If I kill any of these enemies, they'll immediately respawn on those panels, which is why I've covered them up. And now that I covered them up, I don't have to wait for tons of them to come back. And that saves quite a few seconds. Now, these are some ones who will jump. And so basically, the only way to flip them is by waiting for them to fall back onto the ground. They're also in this room, which is really annoying, because the more that you kill, the more they'll come back. Which is why I do this. Hopefully this works out. Okay, good. There we go. Alright. This room gave me tons of trouble when I started out, and like for the first month or so of playing this. But I have it covered pretty well. No problem. Now, the Japanese version of the game has a lot of level differences, and the only Japanese runner who did it has pretty much optimized it very well. I would probably consider running it, but the differences between the two would throw me off very hard. But maybe someday. I could probably optimize a few rooms he doesn't do as well that are similar between the two, but I don't know. Anyway though, these guys are plumps, and all they really do is walk around, but we'll see some different variants of them soon. they'll walk around, and when you push them, they'll stomp on the floor and create a shockwave that flips every panel in that direction. Alright, now these are some different plumps. When you flip them, they'll bounce up, and then if you don't flip them again upon landing, they'll create that shockwave I talked about. So yeah, a little tricky, but not too much. Anyway, so the Japanese time, it is a 21:32, I believe, and it is pretty well optimized. I'm trying to see how fast the US time can get. I took the record earlier this month, and I almost have a 21, but it is brutally hard to get. Oh my gosh, I screwed up this room. Oh. That's okay. That happens sometimes. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you get to see some of their stuff in effect. That wasn't the worst recovery, I guess, but that was a little annoying. Now this girl here, this is Quinty. Basically, she's your sister and the one behind, like, all of the stuff in this game. In the Japanese story, she kidnapped your girlfriend because she was very jealous of all the attention that you were giving her and not to, Quinty. Which I guess is a little sad, I don't know. These are ballerinas, they're not really too special at all. Like, they mostly just spin around the room, and one variant of them will break all the blocks in the room, but it's not really that big a deal. Pretty easy palace. But yeah, I'm trying to get a 21 in this game and see how fast it can be compared to the Japanese version. I think there might be 20 seconds or so of time difference, though, between the two due to level changes. Oh my gosh. There we go. Okay. But yeah, I think the best possible time you could probably get on this is a 21:40 something, like a high 40. So honestly, maybe less than 20 seconds of difference between the Japanese version. But still, maybe one day I'll get it. It's really hard. Also, wow, I died there. That can happen sometimes if I'm not really paying the most attention, I guess. I don't know. But it's fine. I'd want to say that, given room for error, this run would take about 25 minutes to be finished in a marathon setting. Which isn't that bad, I'd say. Now, as I've said before, this was made by Game Freak, and the music is really good in it. The music that plays during the bosses, honestly, it sounds a little reminiscent of, maybe the rival music from Pokemon Red and Blue. Honestly, a lot of the music in this game gives a good Pokemon feel. And even some of the sprites kind of resemble some. Like these swimmers, for example, were kind of just basically the swimmers that you would find in Pokemon about. But yeah, these swimmers, I think they are the worst casually. Like, they are just really annoying. You don't really get to see what makes them annoying in the run, fortunately. Like, all of the levels are made pretty easy when you know what to do. But what they do, when they swim around, they'll kick all the tiles behind them and just push everything out of the way. It is very annoying to deal with. Alright, that was really nice. I recently changed up the strategy using this room, because before, the previous record holder did not, he would go to a bonus round, which was the only one that you would go to in the run. Now, I won't really have any time to show any of them, since there's none otherwise, but basically all you do when you go to a bonus round is you collect all the stars in that area, and then it basically just skips that level. But I tried to find a really fast way of dealing with that room, which I was able to do. Alright. I really like the music that plays when you win. But, here we are at the Mimi Palace. These are some of the most annoying enemies. Not all of them are troublesome, but quite a few levels in here are very hard. Honestly, if I can count on anything in the run going wrong, it's definitely the Mimis and artists. Like, everything else I'd say is pretty consistent for me. Outside of, like, dying a few times. Very rare, though. Honestly, trying to not die at all is very hard. Oh my gosh. This room is annoying. Aw, man, I did that to myself. That's lame. Hopefully that doesn't happen in a future run. But yeah, this room can be troublesome. Basically, these Mimis, they mimic you. Kind of creative name, I guess. I honestly don't know entirely what these red variants of them do any differently. Like, maybe they're faster? I have no clue. Wow, okay, that was crazy. I was supposed to flip them all into the wall at once, but they can flip each other, so yeah. This room is annoying, very annoying. Luckily, I cleared it just fine. Sometimes this room will not get cleared with some of the respawn tiles facing down. This room can also be really annoying, but it seems like it's going well this time. Oh, never mind, I spoke too soon. There we go. And this room is, yeah. Lots of little panels here. Alright. Sometimes I have trouble fighting Quinty here, but not always. I'm glad that went well out of everything. And now we're in the Center Palace, which combines all of the palaces together and gives you harder variants of the enemies. Like these walkmen here, they will walk into you. But yeah, no. Not very many of these rooms are troubling at all. Oh no. Yep. Oh man, that was a mess. I messed up the setup at first, but I'm so glad I was able to recover it. Like, I was worried one of them was gonna hit me. I'm pretty proud I was able to do that. It takes a very good understanding of the AI patterns to be able to perform well if you make a mistake. Honestly, the only room in this area that's troubling is this one sometimes. And that's just because I need them all to walk towards me, and sometimes I miscount how long I'm walking the side to trigger them to do so. Alright, no problem. This is the final palace, and it has the most obnoxious enemies in the game. I think they're called martial artists or whatever. I don't really remember. I don't remember their Japanese name, and I don't remember what the US name is. All of the enemies have terrible names in the US, so I don't use any of them. All the ones on the side are Japanese. But yeah. All these guys do is they try to kick and push you around. I didn't mention it before exactly, but some of the harder AI of the previous enemies, what they'll do is they'll try to never walk in front of you. They'll try to hit you from the side or behind. But we can get around that, like with these guys, by just standing on the edge of the tile that we're on to push them in, because they're not smart enough to get around that. Nice. Oh no. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's definitely not a level I want to make a mistake on. So what can I do about that? Are you serious? Wow, okay. That's a good level to die on right there. Well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. There, that works. That was not supposed to happen at all, but whatever. Wow, I died here too? This is just not my time. The next room? This is the worst room in the game, period. Dying here is like, no matter what happens, your run is dying, period. But good thing I didn't die, because all these suns around, there's just tons of respawn tiles underneath, so it'll never stop. But there we go. And that's it. Mendel Palace in 23 minutes, 20 seconds, with a few deaths. Not very bad. So yeah, I would probably put an estimate of 25 minutes, even though I'll probably get it done in under 24. But yeah, really neat game. Lovely music. I might let the credits play out for you, just to hear that. Good stuff. But yeah, definitely underrated game. I really want to get more people to acknowledge it. So yeah, let me know what you think. Hopefully this would be good for the event. I like how the end card kind of looks like the one in Pokemon Red and Blue. But yeah, so there we go.